let's examine the mindset of today's modern dater and the approach they're taking to locating a partner to share their life with. Recent data from Forbes tells us that there's a aversion to dating, especially among younger men, which are reflected in the rising rates of singledom and loneliness. So let's examine some of the key factors influencing their recent behavior. Many younger men are not approaching women, according to a 2024 study commissioned by psychologist Andrew Thomas of DatePsychology. It found 59% of young men today who are single are not approaching women between the ages of 18 and 25 within the past year. The number is slightly lower for men between the age range of 26 and 40 at 48%. According to a 2025 Vox article, it also found that young men are averse to dating due to a fear of rejection if they put themselves out there. Surveys in the article indicate that men are rejected at a higher rate than women. The survey found that approximately 28% of men said that they had been romantically rejected within the past year, compared to just 16% of women. This is all good data to share with my friend Paul Roseberry. He's a dating coach, a matchmaker, and a comedian who created the security method to relationship development because he says it destroys him to see people struggle in relationships which just are not working, especially when a lot of the relationships could work better if people just understood the dynamics of what makes a great relationship work. Roseberry helps daters to build personal confidence, which will help you understand exactly what you want in a relationship, which will help it last for the rest of your life. And Roseberry joined me this week to tell me more. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Paul, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, my friend, and I'm super excited to dive into your experience surrounding relationships. Great to see you, and happy Monday to you, my friend.
Happy Monday to you. Happy Monday to you.
Yeah, Paul, I wanted to start our conversation by asking you, but you say that it destroys you to see people in relationships that just aren't working, my friend. And I know that you've created something that you call the security method for relationship development to help solve this problem, my friend. So I'm wondering if you can tell me about it. Tell me about it and what makes it so fabulous, my friend.
Of course. And yes, I mean it when I say it destroys me to see people in relationships that are struggling, because I really think that there is a path to a successful relationship, and it's not extremely complicated, but it's not well known. That's the issue. They don't teach us in school how to, they don't teach us how to balance our checkbook. They don't teach us how credit cards work, but they also don't teach us how relationships work. And I I actually think that it's lesser fault on the relationships because I think most people really don't know. I think there are a lot of people who could teach you how to balance your checkbook and how credit cards work. But relationships, it's a trickier concept because there's less awareness. But I really do believe that the security method that I've created, and I say I've created, I mean, I've assembled it. It's really a series of observations I've made in my own life that I'm happy to share with others because I really do believe that relationships, they don't have to be the mystery that most people see them as.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into what you think makes a great relationship. What dynamics do you think a great relationship has, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
That's an excellent question. First off, a relationship which is based on interest, genuine mutual interest. And that may seem obvious, but I'll clarify, give it some contrast. Interest rather than need. And that's where a lot of people get hung up. A lot of people get into relationships, whether they realize it or not, because the relationship and or the person they're in that relationship with solves some sort of an insecurity in his life. And so thereby then the relationship becomes a necessity. And if the relationship becomes a necessity, then unfortunately people will pay all costs to avoid seeing that relationship end. And that is where I love to come in and help. Actually, I love to come in and help sooner. I like to avoid that even happening, but a lot of people do get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paul, I know that part of your work also helps men specifically develop personal confidence because you are someone who believes if we don't have personal confidence, we can't build thriving relationships, my friend. So I'm wondering your thoughts on how to build personal confidence and why you think that's a huge dynamic for a successful relationship. What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Sure. Confidence is critical. Confidence is critical to any relationship, including the relationship you have with yourself. You have to feel excited about who you are on some level. Does this mean that you think that you're perfect? Does this mean you think you got life figured out? Absolutely not. But you have to have some awareness of aspects of your own self which you deem to be valuable, which you are excited about. You have to have a certain level of comfort in your own identity so that way there, when you get into a relationship, you're sharing, you're giving, sharing some of your value with somebody else, as opposed to taking their value to keep yourself to feel comfortable.
Yeah, and Paul, I'm curious because, a Vox study from this year found out that 28% of single men are afraid or hesitant to approach women in today's modern dating scene. So why do you think men are so hesitant to approach women that they're interested in, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I'll tell you first, I think 28% is low. I would guess it's low. And I wonder what area that study was taken. If it was in the U.S. or in a specific segment of age of men in the U.S., I think that number's low. I think there are more men than 28% who are afraid to approach women. And I think the reason is because, and this is where I love to help, they have no plan. They have no plan, Kevin. These guys have no idea what they want. They have no idea what they want. So they have no idea what they should expect of themselves to be able to attain it. And then they also have no idea what they bring to the table to exchange for this transaction to occur. And I hate to say transaction, but I mean, realistically, if you don't know what your goal is, and you don't know what it's going to take to achieve your goal, and you don't know what assets you have to attempt your goal, Well, you have really very little reason to believe it's going to work out. You're really just taking a shot in the dark, you know? So I think it's very reasonable that at least 28% of men would be afraid to take a gamble to the extent that I just described. You know, would you gamble in the stock market if you had no idea what the stock was, how much it cost to buy it and how much is in your pocket? Of course you wouldn't take that gamble. You'd hang back.
Mm-hmm. Paul, I'm curious to ask you about the profile of today's modern dater. And what do you think when we look for dates? Is it important to go in with a checklist when we go on dates if they don't check a box rather than just having a regular conversation? So I guess what I'm asking is, how do we make dating less transactional and make it more interactive? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
I love that you asked that, and as I used that word earlier and quickly kind of clarified transactional. So here's the thing. You don't want to go in purely transactional, but you don't want to go in purely emotional. It's a balance. As with any good relationship, anywhere in life, any sort of goal, you've got to have balance. So Kevin, what I would recommend as far as, get the transactional aspect in line. And what I mean is start to figure out, I call it the fives. I tell everybody, make your lists of fives. 5 things that you're looking for in a successful and enjoyable relationship for yourself. Start to write those things down. And when I say 5, I mean like 55, really. But you want to start to kind of iron out as you make this list over time. Keep it in your phone, in your notes app. Just start putting things in that you think would be enjoyable in a relationship and get to your top 5, your real priorities. Now, when you do that, you're going to, let me give you a big picture for a sec. Why the 5s are valuable. You're gonna make a list of 5 things that you're looking for in a relationship. You're gonna make a list of 5 things that are great about you that you bring to a relationship. And you're gonna make a list of 5 things you're afraid may hold you back from being successful in a relationship. So you can be real. You can't just look at the good. You got to look at the bad. It's the bad that holds us back. So you make these lists, and then you recognize, and here's the key to the whole game, Kevin. Here's the key. Once you decide that you know what you want, which is a successful relationship, and you can define it, what it looks like, you decide you have what it takes to attain that relationship, and you're building yourself. There's no reason you can't have that relationship. You've decided you will have a successful relationship with someone you enjoy. Now, at that point, what you've come to establish, if you really think about it, you've narrowed down that you're only going to be in this relationship with one person, right? Mm-hmm. We want a monogamous relationship. That's who I work with, people who want monogamy. Now, that doesn't mean the first person you meet, that's going to be it. It may take time. It may take weeks, months, or years. But you've established you're going to be looking to meet one person who you're going to be serious with. Now, when you realize what you've done, you've actually narrowed down, you've valued your time. Now, when you meet new women, you can step away from the transactional checklist because you now have established for yourself, you're only going to end up with one person. You can relax a little bit. You know, the checklist isn't exact, maybe 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5 rather. But when you meet somebody, you now start to listen to who they are. You ask about them. It's what I call flipping the interview. You're interviewing people. You're interviewing women, and not in a strict, uncomfortable way. But you're looking to learn more about this person, which means what you're not doing is what you probably used to do: walk up to someone who you find attractive, and then act nervously because your mind is focused on your faults and what they won't like about you. That's what you've flipped. Now you're not the one being interviewed. Not in your primary focus. Of course, they're going to be interviewing you a little bit on their end, but you're going to be focused on your value and whether or not this person's a fit for you. So then the conversation can flow because you know what kind of conversations you want to have. You want to learn about them. You want to ask them about their lives, things that you know are of value for you to know as to whether or not you should spend more time with this person. And that's where things get really exciting. That's where things get fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paul, as an old sports reporter, I'm always excited to develop game plans. And I have to ask you this question because earlier this year, our friends over at Psychology Today published a study that said 59% of men between the ages of 18 and 25 were afraid to approach women because they were afraid of being rejected, my friend, and
Right.
also dealing with a feeling of loneliness if they don't approach women. So how do we end the cycle of loneliness and sort of uptick the confidence that men have to approach women? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Now that's a stat that I really like. And I love that you're a stats guy. I'm a big analytics guy myself. So 18 to 25-year-old men, 59% are afraid to approach women. That sounds more realistic. And let's dig right into that. The reason these men are afraid is and that they're afraid of getting rejected. Think about what's going on. What does rejection mean? Rejection means you went up to somebody with an intent and they declined. They looked at your proposition and said no. Okay? So let's look. Here's how I look at confidence. Confidence, we'll compare it to shopping at a grocery store. Say there's a snack at the grocery store you want to buy and it costs $5, right? Mm-hmm. $5 snack. Now, you know, if you have $5 or more in your wallet, you're going to be able to walk up to the counter, make an exchange, and walk out that door with the product, right? Mm-hmm. But if you have less than $5, you have every reason to fear that transaction will not occur, right?
Yep.
Now, consider when you buy something at the store, you don't consider that to be confidence. You just know I either have or do not have what it takes to complete this transaction. I define confidence as the situation which occurs when your assets are greater than or equal to the demands of the task. CAT. Even though I'm more of a dog guy than a cat guy. Confidence equals the situation when your assets are equal to or greater than your task. So when a guy goes up to a girl and he's fearing rejection, Kevin, what he's thinking in his mind is, this girl's out of my league. If she wants a relationship, he's hoping she wants a relationship, and so does he. We'll at least start on the same playing field. If we're both single and we both want a relationship, he's saying, this woman has greater expectations and greater options than I can deliver. So I'm afraid that I'm going to present my assets to the task, which is creating a relationship, and I'll be insufficient. I won't have enough money to pay for that. I won't have the $5 to pay for that snack. That's what they're afraid of. Now, the solution, Kevin, the solution is very specific. Take the time to inventory your assets. Look in your wallet, Kevin. You got to look in your wallet and ask yourself, do I have $5? Who am I? Do I have $5? And quit walking down the street like you don't. I assure you, you probably have $5. And if you don't, then becoming aware that you don't have $5 should be your primary task. It should be what you work on immediately. And you shouldn't be dating people yet. Because if you don't feel excited about who you are, that's what you're asking. You're asking someone to share their time with you. You're asking somebody to get into, really, if you break it down, sharing their genes with you to make a child. This is a serious, massive request to ask of somebody else. And if you don't feel you have what it takes to be worth asking that request of this person, then don't. But do ask yourself why. Mm-hmm. And when you understand why, you bring a lot to the table. And you want a relationship and you bring plenty of value to make a relationship worthwhile with somebody else based on what you bring and what they bring, then it's going to feel very comfortable for you. You're going to walk into that store, you see that snack for $5 and you go, yeah, I got 12. I don't care. course I can buy that snack. And you don't even think of it, but that's what confidence is. And that's how you overcome it. If you're afraid, ask yourself why you're afraid. Why is this person going to reject you? I always use the reference of comic books. When I was growing up, there were guys who liked comic books. You know, they were comic books are sort of nerdy, right? Let's be real. They're cool. And if you like them, that's great. But some of the comic book guys, they kind of felt like they had this nerdy sort of interest, you know? And if that's the case, if you're into something you think is nerdy, don't give it up, but own it. I know a guy, I've met several guys, Dungeons and Dragons. They play Dungeons and Dragons. It's probably the dorkiest thing I could imagine, right? Really. But if you enjoy playing Dungeons and Dragons, ask yourself why and stand by it and be able to sell it. Be able to tell some girl who you think is way too hot to be interested in Dungeons and Dragons, but so what? You got other things in common, you know? Don't be afraid she's going to ask what you do with your time, and then you're going to be like, oh, I play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm a dork. You're probably never going to want to, you know, hang out with me. You're like, no, I play Dungeons and Dragons. It's the bomb. You should check it out sometime. Super smart. It's a fun way to use your head. It's a great communal, you know, activity. Keeps me entertained. I'm into it. You should check it out. It's hot. Sell some chick who's never thought Dungeons and Dragons was hot is going to be like, holy, wow. I didn't know Dungeons and Dragons is kind of the hottest thing. I want to know more. Can I hang out with you when you play Dungeons and Dragons? I want to watch. Next thing you know, you get this smoking hot girl or just cool chick who you didn't think you had any reason to take up her time. And now she wants more of yours because you sold it, dude. Sell it.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And Apollo, tell me, in addition to being a relationship coach and expert, my friend, you're also a stand-up comedian, my friend. So I'm curious, how does a dating coach become a stand-up comedian, my friend?
Same kind of relationship, buddy. Same kind of relationship. It's about knowing yourself. For one, you've got to, you know, if you've got things that you know make you laugh because you take some time in this world and you observe how it works and how you work and things are just making you chuckle during the day, then one, that's a great relationship to start with, the relationship with yourself. And then secondly, there's a relationship with the audience. It's the same idea. You know, and I'll be honest with you. One thing I'm really happy to share is that I did struggle with stand-up for a while. People would like when I did it, and I enjoyed writing it, but there was a disconnect. Something wasn't clicking. I wasn't sure what it was. And I felt like I put this ridiculous pressure on myself, just like a lot of guys do when they go up to a woman. I was putting this pressure on myself to perform at my absolute best every single time. Otherwise, it was a failure. And my fear is that the audience wouldn't like me and they would have felt it was a waste of their time. You know, there was this ridiculous pressure of judgment. And I didn't realize I was doing the same thing that I had done, you know, and a lot of guys do early into dating. And I say early because we're going to evolve them past that place. And I wasn't getting what I wanted from my relationship with stand-up. So what did I do, Kevin? I took the principles of the security method that I use for relationships and I applied it to my relationship with stand-up, and it got a lot more enjoyable. I got very comfortable with my material. I understood why I wanted to share it because I like it and it's only reasonable other people would like it if we've established that they're interested in comedy. And it got a lot more fun, and I just shot my first special 2 weeks ago.
Well, congrats, my friend. I'm sure that was a high for you, my friend. And I'm curious, just before we move on, how does your experience as a comic help you as a dating coach, my friend? How are the two skill sets sort of intertwined, my friend, in your opinion?
Delivery, sir. It's all about, hey, there's two pieces of the equation when it comes to coaching. You've got to have value and you've got to be able to deliver it. Those are two key parts of the equation. And so I'm able to use my comedy experience to make a more comfortable communication environment for when I want to share, you know, thoughts or to be able to hear. I mean, as a comedian, you got to listen to the audience as well, even though it's silence versus not, or clapping versus not. Making my advice enjoyable to hear. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paul, I'm curious if you think that there's a secret to first date chemistry. What do you think is the secret to establishing chemistry on a first date, my friend?
That's a lot like stand up. And what it is it's the advice we all hate hearing, but I'll explain to you how to hear it the right way. Just be yourself. People always say, just be yourself. And it's the worst advice in dating. It's the worst when you're young because you're like, no, I don't like myself. Myself is the one who's struggling. I want to be someone cooler. I don't want to just be me. I've got to come off in a way that is way cooler than who I am. And that's the issue. When you take the time to really become aware of your assets and build your sense of your personal value, then when you go on that date, you can relax knowing you're just here to share fun things about you and learn fun things about somebody else. So how is that not fun? It's totally fun. And if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, who cares? There are 8.5 billion people on this planet. I assure you, you're compatible with 40 million of them. You know what I mean? Like lowball. So who cares? Who cares? Just relax, 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 relax. Because the most frustrating feeling in the world is when you go and you meet somebody, you go into an interview for a job, you go on a date with a girl, and you walk away, or you get on stage to do stand-up, and you walk away going, damn it, I wasn't me. I wasn't me. I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't breathing right. I was nervous. I was in my head. My answers were weird. My pacing was strange. That person was cool. I know I could have had a better time if I just had been me. If I had been the me I feel like when I'm in the car alone, then that person would probably want to hang out with me again. But I blew it, not because I'm not enough or because they're not cool, but because I wasn't me. So relax and do whatever it takes to figure out how to relax. And I'm telling you how to do it. Assess your assets and build them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're talking about today's modern dater. Paul, I'm curious to ask you, when we look at modern dating today, what do you think are three key things that people don't understand or they miss sort of a value when it comes to modern dating today? So what are the three things people overlook when it comes to modern dating? What are your thoughts there?
The first thing I would say is that they may be overlooking that there is arguably no such difference as modern dating as there was when people had horse-drawn carriages or when we were cave people. Yes, in finer detail, it's going to be a little more digital now. You know, there's going to be more of online opportunities. There may be more texting instead of calling, these kind of things. But number one key is to understand dating is what dating is, and dating has always been what it is. It will always be what it is. The baseline of the relationship will always be the same. So it's about providing value. And I know we're getting closer to the end here, but the reason I refer to my method as the security method is because people are attracted to those who can protect themselves. There's a lot of truth in that. See, a woman will be completely turned off by a guy who wants nothing but to please her. That's what turns a woman off. If a guy is just a yes man, he just wants to please her, he just wants her to like him at any cost, then she knows this guy doesn't feel confident in his own value. This guy needs me to be happy. And if he needs me to be happy, then I'm not getting a partner, I'm getting a dependent. Nobody wants that. And people will test you a little bit. Mm-hmm. I hate to say it, but women will kind of mess with you. They will a little bit. And it's their way of seeing, are you your own person? Are you going to agree with whatever she says no matter what? Or are you the kind of guy who's going to, stay back and say, hey, well, I don't think I agree with you on that. Nicely. But do you hold your own ground? Hold your own ground. Don't be a jerk. Don't make a point to say that you disagree just for the sake of disagreement. But let it be known. Like, yeah, I can see where you're going with that. But, I never felt that way. Even it's like a movie. I know a lot of people might like that movie. You know what I didn't like about it? And just have your own opinion. Don't be a yes man. Be a real man. Be a real man.
Yeah, and Paul, I know for you, it's important for you to work with men to have positive sort of masculine relationships, my friend, because, research also tells us that men need relationships more than women do. So tell me, why is it important to you to work with men to give them a positive masculine role model, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
Well, so I do work with both men and women, but yes, I do really specialize on men because I am one, and I've just been through the same path. I've been there, and I know a lot of the pitfalls. I know a lot of the errors that we make on our side as men. And I'll be real. I think society has a greater need for stronger men than we do for more relationship educated women. I really do. I think women are searching for these strong men, and they're having a hard time finding them. And when I say strong men, I mean a guy who knows his value, a guy who stands by his value. You're not going to break him down so easily, and he's not, looking to you for support. So then, women, things will just work out no problem tomorrow if there were a greater increase of strong-minded men. And so, like, because if you look at it, we have names for women these days, like a Karen. We'll call a woman a Karen because she freaks out. She's over the top. Karens are man-made. Karens are man-made. When a woman gets in a relationship with a man and she believes he's going to be a man and she's going to be a woman, and I'm not getting into like old, like over the top gender roles, but there are differences between men and women, and there are roles that men and women bring to a relationship between a man and a woman. And if she finds that the man doesn't know how to provide the security a man is supposed to bring, then she will panic. And if the relationship must continue, maybe you already have kids, maybe you have a mortgage, whatever, maybe she's afraid of being single, doesn't think she'll do better, then she will panic. She will take on the male role and the female role. And she'll be carrying the weight of two roles in a relationship, and the other person, the man, will then go from an asset to a liability. And she'll be strained by having to play both roles and have to look after who she thought was going to be her partner and is instead a liability.
One of the things that irritates me when it comes to dating or relationships, or one of the things that really gets under my skin when it comes to this stuff, Paul, is women or men who think, if I can just get into a relationship with this person, I can change this person for the better. And I think that's a misguided sort of approach to dating, because, accepting people for their flaws. Now, you can help people improve, but I don't believe that you can change a fundamental person, in the dating process to sort of mold them into the person that they are, because you're either going to accept the person for who they are and help them advance in life, or you're not. So I'm curious about your philosophy when someone comes up to you and says, if I can only get this person into a relationship, I can change them for the better. What are your thoughts there?
I think you make a great point. I think it is always critical to understand that there's got to be flexibility. There's always got to be some flexibility. Just because someone isn't exactly who you want doesn't mean that you're exactly who they want. And there can still be, life is about balance. Relationships are about balance. But if there are really some critical points that you are looking to change in somebody else, I think you may be undermining your consideration for looking at other people. I mean, if we're talking a major religious difference, I dated a girl who had a major religious difference than I. And I thought in time, well, we'll figure it out, or we'll work around it. No, that's a huge issue. And I don't mean just like, well, you're born Jewish, you don't practice. I'm born, whatever. And I was raised Catholic and I don't practice, then who cares? Fine. But I mean, like, people who are serious about religion, or if you're serious about politics, hard left versus hard right, don't spend your time trying to change that person. Accept who they are, respect who they are, and say to yourself, this is something that I need to be that is on my list. If you made a list of things that are important to you, you'd be able to say early on, you know what? I've got to keep looking. This isn't a match for me. Mm-hmm. And if you feel that you have the value and you're not afraid of dating again, then you just go do it.
Yeah. Paul, I'm curious to ask you, how do you define emotional maturity for men in relationships? How would you define that term, my friend?
Emotional maturity to me is being in a place where you feel comfortable being alone. You've got to feel comfortable being alone. When you're the kind of guy who says, all right, if this relationship isn't working for me, then I'm able to walk away and I'm not going to be, mean or spiteful to the other person in doing it. I'm not going to be rude. And, I know what I'm looking for. That's maturity, is when you know what you're looking for, you know what you bring, and you're excited about it, and you won't take less, but you're respectful in how you go about that. That's a mature relationship mindset. Yeah,
absolutely. And Paul, I'm going to give you one more statistic, and then I've got two more questions for you. But
sure.
The first of my last three questions is this, my friend. According to the American Institute for Men and Boys, 44% of Gen Z males today report not having any relationship experience in their teenage years, which affect their ability to build strong and thriving relationships, my friend. And I'm curious your thoughts on that statistic that nearly half of Gen Z men had no relationship experience in their teens, and it affects their ability to form a positive relationship. What are your thoughts there, my friend?
I think we're going into a very interesting time in history. I think realistically, if you look, reproduction rates are down around the world. Around the world, Kevin. If you look, so the way that you determine a reproductive rate for a given people is that you take the number of children. God, how do you explain it? So the number of children that each woman has, the average woman has, and then you cut that number. Do you put it in half? Basically, you got to figure every woman needs to have 2 children in order for society to hold a baseline. I think it's 2.15 kids per woman that a society needs to have, because you're going to have attrition, you're going to have death, you're going to have illness, whatever. But if it's 2.15 children per woman, then your society will maintain its population. If you have less than 2.15, then your population is dwindling and it will eventually fail. I think below 1.3, it hasn't been shown to recover. If you look, most societies are not thriving anymore, Kevin. It's all done. It's an upside down. It's an inverted reproduction pyramid. So this is a pandemic across the world. It really is. And I think a big part of it is because people are, too easily amused by video games, by social media, by TV. It's easier to avoid. Kevin, it's easier. If I'm afraid, as we've established, 59%, if 59% of 18 to 25-year-old men are afraid to approach a woman because they go into it with the assumption that they'll be rejected, and 28% just won't make the approach, then you've got to realize part of this is because we have other things that are less risky. They're also fun. You know what I mean? You can go watch a movie. You can go do whatever you want these days. It's really easy to avoid, and yet it won't feel right, because reproduction is the greatest drive in all of our existence. The reproductive drive is in us, but if we suppress it, all other things are going to come apart. It's not going to feel right. We're going to have serious problems, and it will drive you crazy. It'll drive you nuts. Mm-hmm. If you have this urge to be with somebody else, you don't know how to do it, and you just avoid it by doing these other things, it's gonna bubble up. As far as the 44% not having experience in their teenage years, I don't know what it was. I'm 46. I don't know what it was in the 90s when I was a teenager. But I'll tell you, I didn't have relationship experience until the end of my teens, really, just a little bit, not much at all. It's fine. You can get through it. It's fine, but you just have to be serious about finding that experience soon. Get on it, because the longer you go without, the more you're going to develop personal social muscles that just insulate you from that risk, from that fear, and you're not going to do it. You're going to become too independent. Get out there, roll the dice. It's not all going to work out. You just have to do it. It's like riding a bike. You're going to fall. You're going to scratch your knees. But I mean, you got to ride a bike.
The more you do it, the better you get at it. Absolutely. And,
as with anything.
Absolutely. And Paula, I'm curious to ask you about your definition of whether you think there's a correlation between resolving conflict in a relationship and compromise, my friend, because I think all too often in relationships, we compromise to end conflict. And I'm wondering your thoughts on how we can get out of that mindset, my friend.
So, of course, conflict is a natural part of any relationship. It is not to be, don't avoid it, for one thing. Number one, the sooner the better. The sooner the better. I always tell guys, especially nice guys, because a lot of guys are really afraid of rocking the boat. Guys are really afraid. When you become afraid of what would happen, what would become of you or your life if a relationship ended, then you won't bring up feelings of conflict. You will avoid them, and it won't feel natural. It's not right. Get to it sooner, but go in with the goal of resolution, not who's right or who's wrong. It's not who's right or who's wrong. It's about reasonable balance. Are you bringing up something that if you don't bring it up, it's going to really continue to bother you and it's worth bringing up? Or are you just nitpicking because something else is bothering you and you haven't addressed it? Get on it as soon as possible. Go into it with a reasonable mindset. Be willing to be wrong as well, because you might not realize until the conversation begins. You know what? The reason she's doing this thing that annoys you is because she has to, because you're not doing something that is annoying her. And then you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize. And so be flexible, but also be firm in what's important to you. You know, if you're talking about, you know, your girl flirts with other guys, that's a serious problem. That shouldn't be happening at all. If you're talking about, you know, your girl forgets to, you know, close the fridge, I don't know. I mean, you got to close the fridge, I guess. But I mean, you know, it's be flexible, be reasonable, but get on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paul, my final question, I'll combine my last two questions because they're sort of interconnected. We talked earlier about knowing your values in relationships and sticking to them. And I'm curious for you, when you work with men specifically, the importance of knowing what their value is in relationships is, I think, very important, because sometimes men compromise their values because they want to stay in a relationship with someone that they may think is out of their league. But I'm curious to ask you about the importance of creating and then sticking to your values. And then my last part of that question is, when you look at your own legacy, my friend, what sort of legacy do you want to leave in life and in your career? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
So for one, to start with the beginning of that, absolutely. That's the part that kills me. When I see guys compromise their values because they're afraid of rocking a relationship or possibly losing it. It's the worst. Stop. Do not live that way. You cannot live that way. And it is the core of your honesty to be able to say whether or not you're living that way. Most guys who live that way, Kevin, most guys, you and I might be able to watch from the outside and see their relationship and know they're living a completely value compromised relationship, a value compromised life. But they might not be able to see it. One, because they don't want to. Two, because they are emotionally connected. This is the beauty of being a coach. You're a sports guy. You know how much of a different perspective the coach, we're talking about the NFL. If you're a football coach, you're on the sideline, right? You're not wearing pads. You're not getting hit. You can see the whole field from where you stand. Mm-hmm. So it's much easier for you to be able to say to a guy, a running back, a quarterback who's about to get drilled, and he's got a helmet on, he's got, somewhat obscured view, and he's got guys who are rushing at him, and he's gonna get hit. He's gonna get popped. So now his fear is up, his emotions are up, the intensity is higher, his adrenaline is rushing. It's harder for him to see the big picture from on the field, in the pads, about to get hit, than it is for us on the sideline who can see the whole field. So I would say it's important to, as far as to be able to help those guys, they've got to emotionally separate a little bit. Sometimes you've got to step back and just ask yourself, is this relationship, when you're alone, just take some time and just say, is this relationship, how's it feel? How's it feel? Does it feel good? I mean, sure, not what it does for me, but do I feel, is this enjoyable? Is it costing me all of what I have as a human being? Am I compromising my values? And again, Kevin, I'll harp on it. The reason that they're flexing on their values, they're compromising their values, is because why? They haven't established their values. They don't know their values. If you don't know your values, then you're going to compromise them. You will. Because you don't know where they are. It's like stepping on something in the dark. You didn't even know where it was. Of course you stepped on it. Turn on the lights, man. Look at your values and determine which ones are critically valuable to you and which ones are options and whatever. So I know that was the first half of what you were saying. How do we help guys who are value compromised? Establish what your values are. Establish them. Even if you're in the middle of a relationship, you've been married 10 years, who cares? Take some time alone and just ask yourself, who are you? Where do you stand on the key points? And then ask yourself, am I bending those? Am I getting them stomped on by my partner? And it doesn't mean your partner's a bad person. We'll feel like it. Resentment makes you feel like the other person can be the devil. But if you haven't presented to them what your values are, how do they know if they're stepping on them? Mm-hmm. Be real. Sorry, there was a second half to that.
Yeah, no, the second half was just about your own personal and professional legacy and how you wanted that to be defined, my friend.
Sure. As a guy who shared value, which had positive impact on the lives of others, I don't really care, in the grand scheme. I'm 46. I'm probably halfway through life. I have mixed feelings on the value of life as a whole. I'll be honest with you. This place isn't all, popcorn and bubble gum. It's a pretty weird place, life, and being a human on planet Earth. I think it's a really mixed bag, and I don't know how much I want to ever think about it when I'm gone. If that sounds morbid, I'm sure it does. But if I could leave a wake in my path, it would be that guys, people, men and women, could spend more time enjoying relationships than being frustrated by them. If I could do that, brother, that's a big old win. That's a big old fat win. And if they laughed while learning any of the values that I shared, then the comedian side of me loved it too. So, yeah, it may sound a little altruistic. I guess it is. Whatever.
I mean, that's the great thing about life. We're all here to provide diverse opinions, aren't we?
Why not? What the hell else are we doing here, Kevin? What the hell else are we doing here?
Absolutely, my friend. And Paul, finally tell me, if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can do that?
Paul@paulroseberry.com. That's my email. My website is paulroseberry.com, Roseberry. Reach out, man. You know, I do one-on-one coaching. I'm happy to talk about how those packages work. I do a free consultation, 20-minute consultation with anybody who's curious. We find out if we're a match to work together. And if you're not looking for coaching, but you just want to throw out a question, I'm happy to answer. I just like doing this, man. I really do. You know, I want the door to be open. I know what the struggle feels like. I've got this tattoo. I don't know if we talked about this.
Yeah. Oh, well.
It's relationships will tear you apart. You know what I mean? And that wasn't just about her name. That was about how I felt about myself when a relationship didn't work. And so I've been there, man. No matter where you are, I've been in those trenches. I know how bad it sucks. I know how much it consumes all your thoughts, all of them. Out of 8 thoughts in a day, in a second, 6 can be, why did my relationship fail? Why is it killing me? Why am I not enough? I know what that feels like, and you will shred yourself, tear yourself apart. Don't. Relax. Reach out to me. We can talk. And yeah, some parts of you will have to be shredded and torn down, but those are the parts you don't want anymore. And we're going to identify those.
Well, I tell you,
good, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, Paul, building community and connection goes a long way to determining value, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? Doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. Well, my friend, I want to thank you for the good work that you do to bring men and women closer together to a more harmonious dating experience, my friend. I want to thank you for the unbridled enthusiasm and energy you brought to this conversation, and I want to thank you for the privilege of engaging in conversation with you this afternoon, and I want to thank you for being here, my friend. It's most appreciated.
Kevin, I want to thank you for all the same. I really appreciate you taking the time to create this podcast and to reach out and find people who have new perspectives that you can share with an audience who's looking to grow. And I very much appreciate you reaching out and having me on. So thank you. And maybe we'll talk again sometime. I hope we do.